What if I told you there was a toy line so powerful it literally changed action figures forever? A line that gave us the definitive versions of Batman, Superman, Darkseid, and more. All before the modern superhero movie boom even existed. But this isn't just about toys. This is about the moment superheroes went from comic pages to plastic immortality. Now I'm going to warn you, this episode might be a little controversial because I've got a hot take. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you love action figures, toy histories, and a heavy dose of nostalgia, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're stepping back into the mid-1980s to talk about one of the most influential superhero toy lines ever created. The Superpowers collection from Kenner Products. This was the line that brought DC's biggest heroes and villains off the comic pages and into kids' hands with bold colors, action features, and pure Saturday morning energy. Whether you grew up with them or you've only seen them in collector cases, today we're breaking down why Superpowers still matters and why it changed the game forever. Let's get into it. In recent years, Todd McFarlane brought back the Superpowers name under McFarlane's Toys, creating a modern line inspired by the 80s classics. A lot of fans, rightfully so, started asking, where are the female characters? It sparked debates, discussions, some frustration. But here's the part nobody seems to bring up. If you go back to the original 1984 through 86 run, there was only one female figure ever produced. Just one. Wonder Woman stood alone in that lineup. That's it. So today, we're not just celebrating nostalgia. We're going to talk about context, about history, about whether modern lines should strictly mirror the past or improve on it. Because trust me, if you grew up in the 80s, these weren't just action figures. They were power incarnate. But maybe not everyone got equal billing. In 1984, Kenner already had massive success with their Star Wars figures. But now they had access to DC's biggest icons, and they weren't going to waste it. The result? A bold, bright, comic-accurate toy line that would become the blueprint for superhero figures for decades. We're talking about heavy hitters like Superman, Batman, The Flash, Aquaman, and the cosmic tyrant himself, Darkseid. Superpowers didn't hold back on villains. Lex Luthor in his green power armor, Brainiac, the Joker, Steppenwolf, Caliban. And for many of these characters, it was their first major action figure ever. That's huge. But here's what made them revolutionary. These weren't static statues. Every figure had an action feature activated by squeezing their legs or arms. Superman's arms punched forward, Batman's arms karate chopped, Flash pumped his arms like he was mid-sprint. Green Lantern's arms swung to simulate power ring action. It was simple, it was durable, and it was genius. Kenner understood something critical. Kids didn't just want accuracy. They wanted movement. They wanted their heroes to do something. One of the most important things about superpowers, they weren't based on movies or TV shows. They were based on the comics. The designs pulled heavily from legendary DC artist Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, whose style guide artwork defined how DC characters looked throughout the 80s. That's why these figures still feel right. Bright blues, deep reds, clean emblems, classic silhouettes. When you picture a timeless comic Superman, you're basically picturing the Superpowers version. Kenner didn't stop at figures. They gave us the Batmobile, the Hall of Justice, the Justice Jogger, and yes, the vehicles were oversized, colorful, and gloriously impractical. But that was the magic. That was gritty realism. This was pure Saturday morning energy. Here's the wild part. Even though the line only ran from 1984 to 1986, its DNA is still everywhere. Modern DC figures inspired by it. Collector nostalgia fueled by it. Even today, companies recreate that exact scale and style. The Superpowers line didn't just succeed, it set the standard. For a lot of collectors, Superpowers represents the peak of 80s toy creativity, comic accuracy before movie synergy, and the golden age of play value over hyper articulation. These figures weren't fragile. They were built to survive backyard battles against Darkseid. And somehow, they still do. So whether you had them lined up on your shelf or buried in a toy chest somewhere, the Superpowers collection wasn't just another toy line. It was a moment, a bright, bold, cosmic moment in plastic energy. Honestly, they still look super. Here's something that I absolutely love. You can take modern Superpowers toys and pair them with the Superpowers Kenner products, and they blend seamlessly together. Sometimes you can't even tell the difference. When you line them up side by side, the scale feels right, the bright, comic accurate colors still pop, even the sculpt style holds up better than you'd expect for figures that are over 40 years old. That is the magic of this line. The modern figures clearly draw inspiration from that original DNA. So when you mix vintage and new on the shelf, it doesn't look out of place. It looks intentional. It looks like one long continuing legacy. That kind of shelf harmony is something every collector can appreciate. One of the most interesting and most talked about aspects of the original Superpowers collection from Kenner Products is its lack of female representation. Across the entire 1984 through 86 run, only one female action figure was ever produced. Wonder Woman. That's it. To be fair, other female characters were proposed during development. Concept art and discussions reportedly included characters like Catwoman, Supergirl, and others from the DC roster. For a variety of reasons, marketing assumptions of the era, retail strategy, production limitations, they never made it to store shelves. And that's very much a product of the 1980s toy industry mindset. Fast forward to today, we're in a completely different era. collectors and fans absolutely want broader representation. We want deeper rosters. We want heroes and villains that reflect the full DC universe, not just the usual heavy hitters. I'll say it clearly. I am rooting for that. I want to see more female characters in this line. It's not about rewriting history, it's about building on it. With the modern revival of superpowers under McFarlane Toys, there have been conversations about character selection. And now that it's been announced the line will continue through an exclusive partnership with Entertainment Earth, I remain optimistic. This can mean tighter waves, more niche picks, and potentially more risk taken on characters that wouldn't have happened at mass retail. That is exciting. On a personal note, I actually came late to modern superpowers line. By the time I jumped in, several waves had already come and gone. So there are some serious gaps in my collection. And believe it or not, I don't even have a Wonder Woman figure. The one and only female figure from the original run. And I'm missing her. If anybody out there has an extra Wonder Woman from the modern superpowers line, wants to make a deal, hit me up down in the comments. Let's trade. Let's work something out. So today we talked about the historical reality that the original Kenner Superpowers line only produced one female action figure. The fact that other characters were proposed but never made it into production. How modern collectors want and deserve broader representation. My optimism about the future of the Superpowers line through Entertainment Earth. And yes, the painful gap in my own collection. Superpowers has always been about bold, colorful, comic-inspired fun. Now it has the opportunity to evolve while still honoring that legacy. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, which female DC character do you want to see added to the Superpowers line next? For me, I don't really know. I would love to see Black Canary, Raven, Wonder Girl, Supergirl, Catwoman, Zatanna, Hawkgirl. Well, give us a Hawkman first. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. And as always, stay minty, stay fresh. Bye.